Emma ran down the street in tears. Her hands shook as she searched the pavement. The ring was gone. Not just a ring. The last thing her mother ever gave her. If she lost it, it would be like losing her all over again. Across the street, a woman in a black suit stopped walking. She had just found something. A silver ring. And that moment would change all three of their lives forever. The city moved like a river of glass and steel, each wave of movement precise and unstoppable. Cars honked. Pedestrians hurried past, clutching steaming coffee cups, earbuds, and smartphones. The morning was alive with noise, but for Alexandra Hale, it was just background, a blur against the clarity of her own schedule. Alexandra had always walked like she belonged to the world, because, in many ways, she did. At 32, she was the CEO of Hale Dynamics, a tech empire that touched millions of lives, though few would ever notice. She was sharp, efficient, and untouchable, at least, that was how she liked it. Her life ran like clockwork, meetings, decisions, strategy, control. She hadn't left room for unpredictability, and she certainly hadn't left room for love. And then, on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning, something small and silver caught her eye. A ring. It was lying there, almost hidden among the cracks of the sidewalk, glinting faintly in the golden sunrise. Alexandra paused. For once, she didn't rush past. She bent down, brushing a wisp of hair from her face, and picked it up. The ring was simple, silver, slightly worn. On the inside, delicately engraved, were two words. Always home. She turned it over in her fingers, examining it as if it held a secret. Someone had lost something important. And in a city of millions, the chances of finding it seemed impossible. Yet here it was. Her thoughts were interrupted by movement across the street. A woman, young, disheveled in the most human, exhausted way, was crouched down, scanning the pavement. Her hands trembled slightly, and beside her, a little girl tugged at her sleeve. "Mum, did you lose it?" the child asked. The woman's eyes widened, scanning desperately, panic and hope mingling in equal measure. Alexandra's heart, a heart that had not fluttered for anyone in years, skipped. Without overthinking, she stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said, holding the ring out. "Did you lose this?" The woman looked up. Relief crashed across her face like a wave. "Yes. That's it. Oh my God, yes." The little girl jumped up, her tiny hands reaching for the ring. "Mum. You found it." Emma Clark, that was the name Alexandra learned as the woman hugged her daughter tightly, laughed, a soft, fragile sound that vibrated with relief and something Alexandra couldn't yet name. She watched Emma slip the ring back onto her finger, the engraved words catching the sunlight, reflecting hope. And Alexandra felt a pull, something unexplainable and magnetic, a thread connecting her to this stranger and her little girl. For a moment, the city faded. The honking cars, the bustling pedestrians, the concrete and glass, all of it disappeared into the background. There was only the silver ring, the woman, the child, and a quiet, unspoken moment of fate. "You really found it?" Emma whispered, almost as if she couldn't believe it herself. Alexandra smiled faintly. It seemed important. Emma looked at her, and for the first time that day, Alexandra felt seen. Really seen. "Thank you," Emma said, her voice steadying. "You have no idea what this means to me." The little girl tugged at Emma's sleeve. "Mum, can she come see the cafe with us?" Alexandra blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected an invitation. In fact, she hadn't expected to be noticed at all. But the smile on Emma's face, the trust in Lily's eyes, tugged at something inside her, something she hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long while, Alexandra wondered, maybe some things weren't meant to be scheduled. Maybe some things weren't meant to be controlled. Maybe some things, like a simple silver ring on a city street, could change everything. And at that moment, Alexandra Hale realized that her life, precise and perfect though it seemed, had just been thrown off course in the most beautiful way possible. The following week, Alexandra found herself walking past the same cafe more times than she could count. Each time, she told herself it was coincidence. Each time, she lingered just a moment longer, peering inside. The smell of fresh coffee, warm pastries, and the faint scent of vanilla and sugar greeted her the moment she stepped through the door. The city outside still roared with noise, but here, it felt calmer. Softer. Human. Emma Clark stood behind the counter, wiping a glass with a rag, her movements precise despite her obvious exhaustion. Lily sat at a small table near the window, coloring with a pencil set spread haphazardly across the table. When Alexandra entered, Lily's head popped up. "Hi. You found Mum's ring." Alexandra blinked, taken aback by the child's blunt excitement. Yes," she said, feeling warmth creep up her neck. Emma looked up from the register and smiled, hesitant, but real. "I didn't expect to see you again." Alexandra shrugged lightly. Coincidence, really? But neither of them truly believed it. She ordered a black coffee and a small pastry, keeping her tone casual. "Just passing by," she said, sitting down at a corner table where she could see both Emma and Lily. Emma nodded, careful not to overstep. "Well, since you're here, would you like to sit?" Alexandra hesitated, then nodded. She didn't know why, but something about the simplicity of this moment, the casualness of a cafe, the way Emma laughed at Lily's constant chatter, the unpolished humanity of it all, drew her in. They talked. At first, about trivial things, the weather, the city traffic, the school Lily attended. Alexandra was careful, measured, calculating her words like she did in every boardroom. But soon, the conversation shifted, and the walls she had built around herself began to crumble. "You really like the city," Emma observed softly, "even if it doesn't always like you back." Alexandra raised an eyebrow. "I suppose that's one way to put it." Emma smiled knowingly. "You're used to controlling everything, aren't you?" The question hit Alexandra unexpectedly. She didn't answer immediately. She looked out the window, at the river of people rushing by. I am," she admitted finally. "It's easier that way. Less surprises." Emma's gaze softened. "Sometimes the best things are the surprises," she said quietly. Lily, oblivious to the deeper conversation, piped up. "Alex, do you want to see my drawing?" Alexandra leaned closer, smiling genuinely for the first time in months. "I'd love to." Lily held up her picture, a stick figure family of 3, a woman in a suit, a woman with long hair, and a little girl in pink. Alexandra felt her chest tighten. The depiction was simple, almost childish, but it carried a weight she hadn't expected. "That's very accurate," Alexandra said softly. Emma laughed lightly, the sound carrying a warmth Alexandra hadn't realized she'd been missing. "I think she got the best parts right." They spent the next hour talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Alexandra learned about Emma's struggles, the long nights at work, the constant worry over providing for Lily, the quiet determination that kept her going. She learned about Lily's small obsessions, dinosaurs, coloring outside the lines, and the way she insisted on calling Alexandra, the lady who found Mum's ring. And Alexandra shared, too. Carefully, sparingly, but enough to let Emma see the person beneath the CEO, the lonely, meticulous, guarded woman who rarely let anyone close. By the time Alexandra left, her coffee long finished, she felt a strange, unfamiliar flutter in her chest. She had come for a casual visit, a passing curiosity, and left feeling something dangerous, hope. For the first time in years, she wondered if life could be different. If it could be softer. If it could be human. And she knew she would return. Because for all her control, all her schedules and strategies, she realized that some things, the kind that mattered most, couldn't be calculated. Some things had to be discovered. Life has a way of reminding you that no happiness lasts untouched. For Alexandra, the weeks of quiet joy with Emma and Lily felt like a dream, fragile, bright, and entirely unplanned. It started with whispers. At the office, colleagues leaned across desks, their voices hushed but sharp, the CEO's, dating the cafe girl. Do you think it affects her judgment? She's risking her reputation. Alexandra had faced hostile boardrooms, market crashes, and betrayal from the most trusted executives. She had never felt this unsettled. Not because her career was threatened, she could handle that, but because her private life was under siege, and she wasn't sure how to defend it. The next complication came at the cafe, as if fate itself were testing her resolve. Emma's ex-boyfriend, Adrian, appeared suddenly, tall and imposing, leaning casually against the counter. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and they flicked over Alexandra like he was assessing a threat. Emma, he said smoothly. We need to talk. Emma stiffened. Adrian, not now. I think now is perfect, he said. I heard about your new relationship. We need to discuss Lily. Custody. Alexandra felt her chest tighten. Her instincts screamed at her to protect, to assert dominance, as she did in every boardroom confrontation. But this wasn't a boardroom. This was Emma and Lily, her new life, fragile as it was. Emma's voice was calm but firm. There's nothing to discuss. Lily is happy. And she's safe. That's all that matters. Adrian's smirk didn't waver. We'll see about that. The tension lingered like a storm cloud. Alexandra had encountered rivals in her career who were ruthless, but this was personal. And it carried stakes far higher than profit margins. That evening, Alexandra returned home, the city lights blurring into a dull haze. She found Emma in the kitchen, quietly preparing dinner for Lily. Adrian came by, Alexandra said, watching Emma's expression carefully. Emma froze, then exhaled slowly. I was hoping he wouldn't. He's persistent. Sometimes dangerous. Alexandra placed her hand over Emma's. I'll protect you. Both of you. No one crosses this line. Emma looked at her with gratitude, but also a shadow of fear. I want to believe that. I want Lily to have a stable life. I want us to be safe. Alexandra held her gaze. Then we'll be safe. Together. Even as she said it, Alexandra knew that words alone weren't enough. Love, she realized, required courage. And courage sometimes meant fighting battles she hadn't anticipated, not for her empire, but for the fragile, precious life she had begun to care for so deeply. The days that followed were tense. At the cafe, Adrian lingered, watching, questioning, probing. Alexandra made subtle appearances, always polite, but firm, asserting her presence. She had to show Adrian that no threat could reach Emma and Lily without consequences. At the office, whispers about her distraction increased. Investors questioned whether her relationship might impact decisions. Alexandra's calm exterior masked a storm of frustration and fear. She had spent her life mastering control, but this world of love, children, and human vulnerability was completely unpredictable. One evening, after a long day of corporate battles and cafe confrontations, Alexandra found herself sitting alone on the rooftop of her apartment building. The city stretched out below her, endless lights like scattered stars. She thought about Emma, about Lily, about the simplicity of their laughter and the warmth she had never known she craved. And she made a decision. No whispers. No threats. No shadows from the past would dictate her life. She would fight. For love. For family. For a future that wasn't written in spreadsheets or deadlines, but in moments like the one where she had first held that silver ring in her hand. And in that moment, Alexandra realized something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years: hope. Hope that she could protect them. Hope that they could survive the shadows. Hope that love, even when complicated and dangerous, was worth every risk. Rain tapped against the city windows like a drumbeat of warning. Inside Alexandra's apartment, the storm outside mirrored the storm brewing within. Emma sat on the kitchen floor, knees pulled up, Lily asleep on the couch, her small chest rising and falling with quiet innocence. The room smelled faintly of warm bread and coffee, ordinary, safe smells, but the air was thick with fear, exhaustion, and unspoken tension. Alexandra had returned from a late meeting at Hale Dynamics to find Emma there, hunched over like she carried the weight of the world. "I can't do this," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. I can't give Lily a perfect life. I can't give you a perfect life. I'm not enough." Alexandra dropped her briefcase with a soft thud. She knelt in front of Emma, her hands finding hers. "Emma, look at me," she said, voice steady but full of emotion. "You are more than enough. To Lily. To me. You've already given us everything that matters." Emma shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "But what if it's not enough? What if someone comes and takes Lily away? What if, your life? I'm not the life you deserve." Alexandra's grip tightened slightly. "I don't deserve a perfect life either. We all get this one chance at happiness. And I choose you. I choose both of you. Not for perfection, but for love." For a moment, silence fell, broken only by the rain. Emma's walls, built from years of struggle, fear, and past heartbreak, quivered under the weight of those words. Slowly, she leaned into Alexandra, letting herself be held, letting herself be human, letting herself hope. Yet outside their apartment, the world continued to hum with pressure. The next day brought whispers, harsher than before. At Hale Dynamics, executives questioned Alexandra's distraction, implying she was no longer fit to lead. One board member even suggested she reconsider her personal choices, for the sake of the company. Meanwhile, Adrian, Emma's ex, had not given up. He lingered near the cafe, watching, questioning, inserting himself into Lily's life with a precision that was unnerving. Every day, every glance, every word was a subtle attempt to destabilize Emma. That evening, Alexandra found herself pacing the apartment, frustration and fear coiling in her chest. She knew she couldn't control everything, not the corporate attacks, not Adrian's scheming, but she could protect the people she loved. And she would. She turned to Emma, who was sitting quietly, Lily's drawings spread across the kitchen table. "We will face this," Alexandra said firmly. "Together. No one gets to threaten our family." Emma nodded, wiping her eyes, a fragile smile breaking through. "Together," she echoed. But the storm was far from over. That night, as Alexandra and Emma sat with Lily tucked in bed, the rain pattering against the windows, both women knew that love alone wouldn't shield them. They would have to fight. And sometimes, fighting meant standing in the middle of chaos and fear, and choosing each other anyway. For the first time, they felt the weight of the real world pressing down on them, the outside forces that would test their bond, their trust, and their courage. And yet, despite the fear, despite the tears, despite the uncertainty, there was a spark of hope. A quiet, stubborn flame that whispered, this storm could be weathered. They were not perfect. The world was not perfect. But together, they were unstoppable. The morning sunlight streamed through the cafe windows, scattering across the polished wood tables like liquid gold. It was a quiet day, unusually calm, after the chaos of the past week, and Alexandra felt the weight of the storm still pressing lightly on her shoulders. Emma arrived shortly after, Lily in tow, holding a small backpack slung over her shoulder. There was a tension in Emma's movements, cautious, careful, and Alexandra knew immediately that the storm had left its mark. She approached their usual table and sat down. Lily immediately launched into a story about the new dinosaur toy she had gotten, but Alexandra's attention was fixed on Emma. Emma looked up, meeting her gaze. I wanted to apologize, she said, her voice soft but steady. For yesterday. For letting my fear get the better of me. I shouldn't have let it spill over onto you. Alexandra reached across the table, placing her hand over Emma's. No. You have nothing to apologize for. Fear is human. Love doesn't erase it, it faces it. And we're facing it together. Emma exhaled, a fragile laugh escaping her. It's just, sometimes it feels like the world is against us. Between Adrian, the cafe, your work, the whispers, she trailed off, eyes glistening. I know, Alexandra said gently. I feel it too. But the thing is, I wouldn't trade any of it if it means having you and Lily in my life. Nothing outside these walls can touch what we have unless we let it. Emma's hand closed around Alexandra's, a silent promise passing between them. Together, she whispered. Lily, oblivious to the grown-up gravity of the conversation, reached for both their hands. Together, she squealed, her laughter breaking the tension like sunlight through clouds. For the first time in days, Alexandra felt her chest lighten. The storm outside still rumbled, whispers, gossip, the shadow of Adrian, but inside, there was warmth. Safety. Home. Later that day, Alexandra walked Emma home, Lily skipping beside them. The city hummed with life, indifferent to the human dramas playing out on its streets. Alexandra watched Emma, quiet and thoughtful, and realized how much she had come to rely on this presence, this life, this love. Emma glanced up at her, eyes soft. You know. I never thought someone like you could understand someone like me. Alexandra smiled. Maybe because I never thought I needed to. The words hung in the air between them, tentative yet full of truth. And for the first time, Alexandra allowed herself to hope, not just for safety or survival, but for joy. For love. For a life that wasn't perfect, but was real. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Alexandra and Emma sat together on the couch, sharing a quiet moment. Emma leaned her head against Alexandra's shoulder. I'm scared, she admitted. Alexandra kissed the top of her head. I know. Me too. But that's what makes this real. Love isn't about not being afraid. It's about holding on to each other anyway. And in that soft, tender moment, Alexandra realized something she had been resisting for far too long. She wasn't afraid of love. She was afraid of losing it. But for the first time, she knew that together, they could face anything. The morning sun spilled through the curtains, painting warm stripes across the apartment floor. Lily was already awake, her small feet padding softly as she moved from the living room to the kitchen, humming a tune she had made up. Alexandra watched her from the doorway, coffee in hand, a quiet smile tugging at her lips. These moments, ordinary, imperfect, fleeting, were slowly becoming the foundation of her life. And she realized she had never known how much she could crave something as simple as family. Emma entered the kitchen, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear, carrying a tray with breakfast. Good morning, she said softly, placing a plate of pancakes in front of Lily. Good morning. Lily chirped, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Mom. Alex. You guys have to see the drawing I made." Alexandra sat down next to her, trying to focus on the little stick figures and colorful swirls, but really, she was watching Emma. There was a calm strength in the way Emma moved, the gentle patience she had with Lily, the warmth she radiated even on ordinary mornings. "You're really talented, Lily," Alexandra said, leaning down to examine the drawing. "I love how you drew us all together." Lily beamed. "You're in a dress. And Mom's got her hair like she always does. And you found Mom's ring." Emma chuckled softly, brushing Lily's hair back. "She did, didn't she?" Alexandra's gaze met Emma's, and there was a quiet acknowledgement there, an unspoken understanding that this small, domestic world they were building mattered more than any corporate empire or societal expectation. Later, they went for a walk in the nearby park. Alexandra carried Lily on her shoulders while Emma trailed behind, laughing as Lily's tiny feet kicked the air. They stopped by the fountain, where Lily insisted on tossing coins for wishes. Alexandra and Emma joined her, tossing coins side by side. "What did you wish for, Lily?" Alexandra asked, brushing rain-damp strands of hair from her daughter's face after a sudden drizzle. Lily smiled, secretive. "I can't tell. Wishes are private." Emma looked at Alexandra, her eyes soft. "It's good, isn't it? Us, like this?" Alexandra nodded. "More than good. It's right." Evenings became a patchwork of routines and small joys, cooking together, reading bedtime stories, helping Lily with homework, sharing quiet talks while the city outside hummed with life. Alexandra found herself opening up more than she had in years, telling Emma about her childhood, her fears, her dreams, the parts of herself she had kept locked away in boardrooms and spreadsheets. And Emma shared too. The moments she had hidden from the world, the sleepless nights, the worry over providing for Lily, the little triumphs that no one else celebrated. Their lives began to intertwine in a rhythm that felt natural and sustaining. Alexandra no longer felt the sharp edges of control pressing down on her. They softened in the presence of Emma and Lily, softened by trust, love, and the quiet certainty of belonging. One night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Alexandra found herself sitting next to Emma on the couch. Emma leaned her head against Alexandra's shoulder, their fingers intertwined. "I never thought life could feel like this," Emma whispered. "Like it's ours." Alexandra kissed the top of her head. "It is ours. We made it that way." Emma lifted her eyes to meet Alexandra's, a gentle smile on her lips. "And you didn't have to fight alone. I'm here. Lily's here. We're here." "Yes," Alexandra said, her voice soft but certain. "And we always will be." In that quiet apartment, with the city lights twinkling beyond the window, Alexandra realized that trust, love, and family were not things she could control. They were things she could nurture, protect, and choose every single day. And she chose them, unreservedly, without hesitation, without fear. For the first time in years, she felt complete. The street was alive with the golden glow of late afternoon, the kind of light that made everything shimmer, the pavement, the leaves, the edges of the buildings. Alexandra led Emma and Lily toward the spot where it had all begun, the sidewalk where a simple silver ring had first brought them together. Lily skipped ahead, pointing at the cracks in the pavement like she knew a secret. "It's the same place," she shouted. Emma glanced at Alexandra, a mixture of curiosity and nerves in her eyes. "What are we doing here?" Alexandra smiled softly, her heart pounding in a way it never did during board meetings or public announcements. "You'll see." Even as she spoke, Alexandra could feel the tension pressing around them. Cameras from the cafe's corner lens and curious onlookers in the street made the moment public, unplanned but inevitable. And Adrian, she could feel his eyes somewhere nearby, lurking, waiting to disrupt. But Alexandra had learned something in the months since that fateful morning. Love was worth taking risks for. She bent to pick something from her coat pocket, a small, familiar box. Her fingers trembled slightly, though her voice remained steady. "Emma Clark," she began, locking eyes with the woman who had become her world. "From the moment I picked up that ring, my life changed. I didn't expect to feel hope, to feel joy, or to feel love. But you showed me all of that. And Lily, she showed me family." Emma's breath caught. Lily's little hand found Alexandra's, squeezing tightly. Alexandra took a deep breath. "I want to face everything with you. Not alone. Not ever. Will you marry me?" Time seemed to pause. The city noises faded. Only Emma's wide, teary eyes remained in focus, shimmering in the late afternoon glow. Emma began, voice trembling, yes. Yes. Lily shrieked in joy, throwing her arms around both women. "Mom. You said yes. Mom. Mom. Mom." The crowd that had gathered cheered. Passers-by smiled, witnessing a love story unfold in real time. Even the drizzle from earlier had stopped, leaving only golden sunlight bathing the trio. Alexandra slipped the silver ring onto Emma's finger. It was simple, elegant, and carried all the weight of the months they had survived together, the fears, the doubts, the moments of quiet joy, and the battles they had fought. Emma held Alexandra's face in her hands. You didn't just find me that day," she whispered. "You found us. All of us." "Yes," Alexandra said softly. "All of us. And I'll never let us go." The crowd began to disperse, leaving them alone on that small patch of sidewalk. Alexandra held Emma and Lily close, breathing in the scents of rain, street, and home. For a moment, nothing else existed, not the whispers, not Adrian, not the corporate pressures. Only the three of them, bound together by trust, love, and courage. Later, as they walked home hand in hand, Alexandra glanced at Emma. "I never imagined proposing would feel this perfect." Emma laughed softly. "Perfect isn't what we've had. It's messy, chaotic, sometimes terrifying. But it's ours." Alexandra squeezed her hand. "Then it's exactly what I want." Lily skipped ahead, shouting, "We're a family now. We're a family forever." And in the quiet glow of that evening, Alexandra realized something profound. Love wasn't about perfection, control, or safety. It was about choosing each other, every single day, even when the world tried to pull you apart. And in that choice, they had everything. The first months after the proposal were a gentle chaos, messy, beautiful, and entirely theirs. Mornings began with the patter of small feet across hardwood floors, the smell of coffee brewing, and the occasional argument over who got the first pancake. Alexandra found herself awake before sunrise, not for work, but to watch Lily sleep, her small chest rising and falling in rhythm with Emma's quiet breathing beside her. The apartment, once pristine and sterile, was now alive with color. Drawings of stick families covered the fridge. Little toys lined the corners of the living room. A small stack of Emma's recipe cards sat beside Alexandra's laptop. Their lives were interwoven in ways Alexandra had never imagined possible. "Alex, can you help me with this?" Lily's voice called from the kitchen one morning. Alexandra walked over to see Lily struggling with a new science project. Emma stood nearby, watching quietly, a soft smile on her face. Alexandra knelt, adjusting the paper and pointing out the solution with patience. "See? Sometimes the answer is just about looking carefully at what's already there." Emma leaned over, brushing Alexandra's arm. "You're good with her," she whispered. better than I thought anyone could be." Alexandra looked up at her, a warm smile tugging at her lips. "She's easy to love." And love became their rhythm. They baked together on lazy Sundays, laughter spilling into the living room. They read stories to Lily before bed, Alexandra's deep voice contrasting with Emma's soft tones. Walks in the park became daily rituals, small adventures where the city faded into background noise. Evenings were for quiet talks, hand in hand on the couch, sharing the small triumphs and failures of their days. Alexandra found herself sharing more than she had with anyone, fears, childhood stories, even dreams she had buried beneath years of ambition and control. Emma shared too, in equal measure, her anxieties about Lily, her hope for stability, and the joy she found in small victories. Life was not perfect. The occasional whispers from the corporate world still reached Alexandra. Adrian still lingered near the cafe, a shadow of past complications. But together, they were resilient. Together, they faced life's unpredictability with humor, patience, and love. One evening, after dinner, Lily curled up between them on the couch. Alexandra held her close, feeling the warmth of family, the steady pulse of Emma's hand against hers. "Do you ever think about the day we met?" Alexandra asked softly. Emma nodded, her gaze distant with memory. "Every day. That ring, it was more than luck. It was fate. It brought us together." Lily looked up, sleepy-eyed. "And now we're a family, right?" Alexandra kissed the top of her daughter's head. "Yes, Lily. Forever." Emma rested her head on Alexandra's shoulder. "I never thought life could feel this full," she murmured. Alexandra smiled, feeling the truth of every word. Life together wasn't flawless. It wasn't easy. But it was theirs, messy, chaotic, warm, and real. And that was more than enough. Life had settled into a rhythm that was almost perfect, almost peaceful, and in that almost, trouble waited. It came one crisp autumn morning in the form of a letter, slipped under Emma's cafe door. The envelope was plain, the handwriting cold and unfamiliar. Inside was a notice. Adrian had filed legal papers questioning custody arrangements, claiming that Emma's personal entanglements were jeopardizing Lily's stability. Emma's hands trembled as she held the letter. He's trying again," she whispered, her voice tight with panic. Alexandra's jaw hardened. She had anticipated threats, rumors, and corporate pressure, but this hit differently. This was personal. This was her family. And she refused to let anyone, not Adrian, not the world, take that away. "I'm going to fight this," Alexandra said firmly, slipping her hand into Emma's. "We face it together. All of us." For weeks, their lives became a delicate balancing act. Alexandra juggled her executive responsibilities with legal consultations, ensuring that Emma had both protection and support. Emma navigated tense encounters at the cafe and legal filings, leaning on Alexandra for strength while keeping Lily blissfully unaware of the tension. Through it all, they clung to the ordinary moments that reminded them why they fought. Breakfasts together. Walks in the park. Lily's laughter echoing down hallways. Even in the shadow of adversity, love and family remained their anchor. The courtroom day arrived, cold and grey, the sky threatening rain as if mirroring their nerves. Alexandra sat beside Emma and Lily, holding both their hands. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, but Alexandra only had eyes for Emma. "You've done everything right," Alexandra whispered. "Stay calm. We're together, and we're strong." Emma nodded, drawing courage from Alexandra's unwavering presence. Lily squeezed both their hands tightly, unaware of the gravity of the proceedings, but adding a quiet, fierce strength of her own. The hearing was tense. Arguments were made. Questions asked. But Alexandra's meticulous preparation and Emma's calm resilience shone through. When the judge finally spoke, declaring the custody arrangements in their favor, relief washed over them like a warm tide. Outside the courthouse, rain had begun to fall in gentle sheets, turning the city streets into mirrors of gray and silver. Alexandra opened her umbrella, holding it over Emma and Lily. They walked home together, drenched but laughing, their bonds stronger for the battle they had faced. That night, at home, Alexandra poured a glass of wine and held Emma close on the couch. Lily slept soundly nearby, unaware of the storm that had raged and passed. "You were amazing today," Alexandra said, brushing Emma's hair back. "We were amazing," Emma corrected, smiling through her exhaustion. "You, me, Lily. Together." Years had passed since that golden morning when Alexandra first found the silver ring lying on the city sidewalk. Yet, every time she held it in her hand, whether to polish it, admire it, or slip it into Emma's palm, she felt the same quiet magic that had changed her life forever. Their apartment, once bustling with chaos, had grown into a true home. Lily, now older and fiercely independent, laughed freely in the kitchen as Emma cooked, Alexandra sipping coffee nearby, savoring the warmth of ordinary life made extraordinary by love. The city outside continued its relentless rhythm, unaware of the love story that had unfolded on its streets. But within their walls, every corner whispered memories: the first coffee together, the laughter after storms, the proposal beneath the sunlight, and the battles fought to protect their family. On a crisp spring afternoon, Alexandra led Emma and Lily back to that very sidewalk, the one where the ring had first been found, the one where their lives had intertwined in ways no one could have predicted. A small bronze plaque had been placed there, engraved simply: "Sometimes, the smallest discoveries lead to the greatest love." Lily ran ahead, placing a hand on the plaque. "It's ours," she said proudly. "It's our story." Emma held Alexandra's hand, squeezing it gently. "It really is," she whispered. "All of it, every challenge, every happy moment, every tear. It led us here." Alexandra smiled, pulling Emma close. "And we'll keep leading each other forward. Always. For Lily. For us. For everything we've built." The sunlight caught the edges of the ring Alexandra now wore on her own hand, gleaming softly, a symbol of fate, courage, and enduring love. Lily tugged at both their hands. "Mom, Alex. Come see this." They followed her to the small patch of park nearby, where she had built a makeshift castle of sticks and flowers. Alexandra knelt beside her daughter, brushing petals from Lily's hair, while Emma snapped a photo with a smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. It was a moment of pure, unguarded joy. Alexandra looked at Emma and Lily, and a warmth spread through her that no boardroom victory or corporate achievement could ever rival. Here, in laughter and sunlight, they had found everything. As evening fell, they returned home, the city glowing in the distance like scattered stars. Alexandra tucked Lily into bed, listening to her gentle breaths as sleep claimed her. Emma kissed Alexandra softly, lingering, a quiet promise in the touch. "You've changed my life," Emma murmured. "No," Alexandra replied, voice soft but certain. "We changed our lives. Together." And in that quiet apartment, with the city's lights twinkling like distant constellations, Alexandra realized the truth she had known from the moment she picked up that silver ring. Love was the greatest discovery of all. It wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about control. It wasn't about avoiding storms. It was about choosing each other, every day. And they would choose each other, always. The ring remained a symbol of that choice, a testament to the journey from a chance encounter on a city sidewalk to a family bound by trust, courage, and unwavering love. And so their story continued, a quiet legacy of hope, joy, and the simple magic of finding home in one another.